see how you all are. I see you all in chat. Anytime there's a particular guest surrounding anything about the Conjuring movie or Annabelle, you guys just come in droves. You're addicts. You're scary movie addicts. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Dead Air on the Paranormal Channel. My name is George Lopez. With me, as always, Mr. Ken DaCosta, back in Rhode Island after a 4-day whirlwind tour of Florida that he did survive and he did get back from. I think now, Ken, you're going to be starting your vacation from your vacation. Is that right?
Yeah, you know how it is. You just can't wait to get back to your own bed eventually. But I have to tell you, thoroughly enjoyed ourselves there. We actually spent 5 days down there. Second trip to Florida. Excuse me. The first time we were kind of staying at a hotel complex, Universal, and we didn't really get a chance to see the state. So we were able to do that a little bit more this time. We went down to St. Augustine where we met up with you. You were nice enough to join us there. Did a little mini investigation while we were down there at St. Francis Inn. What a gorgeous place. So we did the lighthouse, couple of boat cruises, did Orlando, a couple of super restaurants that we ended up visiting. So it was very nice to be in your wonderful state. And anyone who's out there from the state of Florida, thank you so much for your hospitality. The people there were fantastic. But it's good to be home.
Yeah, we had a nice time up in St. Augustine. Ken was privileged to meet Stephen Mitchell, who is the operations manager at the St. Augustine Old Jail. We just wanted to go up and say hi, and Stephen's like, "You want to go in the jail?" Yes, please. So
bonus plan, yeah.
So we did we shot some footage in there, and the weather, you couldn't ask for anything better. As a matter of fact, it was about 81 on average during the time that Ken and Julie and Dawn were here, and then I was hearing back in Rhode Island it was 93. So
it was 93 here in Rhode Island while I was gone.
Can't understand it, but we'll take it. And it's still that way until I think later in the week where it gets warmer. But thank you guys for joining us. For those of you who have not yet hit that subscribe button, please do so. Also, don't forget to smash that thumbs up and click on the reminder bell for upcoming content here on the Paranormal Channel. Quick thing, Ken, that I wanted to bring up. We have a potential guest that has joined us also in the chat room. A wonderful lady. She's part of a mother-daughter team called the Ghostmore Girls. So there's your shout out. But we kind of connected on social media and said, you'd love to have you come on. And she's like, what am I going to talk about? I haven't done this long. And I said, that's why. Fresh ideas, fresh.
We don't know what the hell we're going to talk about from week to week. Sometimes even minute to minute. So you're in good company. You're among friends.
Yeah, we're looking to have a good time, and hopefully she'll accept the invitation and join us. But we have a very special guest joining us tonight. And Ken, do you want to do the introductions, or however we want to go, my friend? Go ahead.
He is the director of NESPER here in New England, in Connecticut. You probably know him as the gatekeeper of the Warren's Occult Museum, and Annabelle's sometimes traveling partner, and son-in-law of the iconic investigators Ed and Lorraine Warren, who, of course, are in that pantheon of the Harry Price, Hans Holzer, pioneers in this field. And we are so happy to have him on tonight. We're going to talk a little bit about everything with him because, he's a man of many talents and probably a lot cooler than we are. So with that, and without any further ado, we want to bring on Mr. Tony Spera.
There he is. Thank you so much for joining us. Hey, Tony.
Hey, guys. How are you? Hey, thanks for that introduction, man.
You're doing well.
That's actually humbling, but I'll tell you, you guys are great, too. So don't ever sell yourself short, because you guys are fantastic as well. That's why I'm on the show. I don't go on a lot of these shows, but when you guys asked, I said, I'm going to do it because it's George and Ken. So,
thank you.
I'm happy.
We are very humbled ourselves to have you on tonight, Tony, and we're going to have a little fun tonight. We're going to go in some directions, and we're going to go in any direction. You
Okay.
know, so the
Sounds
platform is yours tonight. So,
good.
and I just want to remind everybody, if you have a question for Tony, please put them up in chat. And sometimes later on the show, maybe the second half of the show,
Yes.
we'll get to them. And
Right.
so
If you're
please,
good, if you guys behave in there, if
well,
you're good.
you know,
Yeah. So I just want to welcome all the people from the audience that are listening tonight. It's always good to have people come in and want to talk about the paranormal and want to learn about the paranormal, because that's the key. The key is
yeah,
always trying to learn more about the paranormal. Nobody who's walking the earth today knows all the answers. Ed Warren used to tell me all the time. He said, Tom, we don't know all the answers. We're not meant to know all the answers. He said, that's the magic, that's the mystery of the universe, he used to say. He said, we'll know the answers when we pass on from this realm. But while we're here, we might as well try to learn and glean all the information that we can to help us along, to help people who need help, as
Amen.
far as haunted
that's
houses
it, man.
and ghosts and things like that.
We gotta keep
So
evolving.
you got to keep evolving. You got to learn. Like if someone tells me something, I don't automatically dismiss it because I don't know everything. Maybe they know a little bit more than I do, and maybe I can learn something from what they're telling me. Not that you can't have just a set value and that's that. You have to be open to these different realms and these different ideas. For instance, like the UFO phenomenon is starting up really heavy with the government supposed to release information in June. And my personal opinion is that there are in fact aliens, that there are in fact UFOs, or they're identified because we don't know what they are, but they're from another universe probably, or another galaxy. And I believe wholeheartedly that we're going to know a lot more in the near future about this. And so many credible witnesses to that. How can you discount United States Navy pilots, Air Force pilots, saying that they encountered these things each and every day when they're in flight? And I heard one account where they said, and this was from the military, that the UFO was at 80,000 feet. Now, 80,000 feet is 15 miles.
Right.
It's 80,000 feet, and they said it descended to water level, to the ocean level, in less than 1 second. There's nothing on this planet that could do that. 15,000 miles up to zero in less than a second. And then he said it went under the water without being destructive. It did not self-destruct. It just went into the water. There's something going on, guys, that we know nothing about. And it's kind of scary, but to me, it's also very intriguing. I joke around with my wife. I say, I want one to land in my backyard and a little guy to come out and ask me for a cup of sugar. I would be so thrilled.
There's got to be a plan, and as if on cue, American Road Warrior in chat is the Mass State Director of MUFON.
Oh,
as
good.
almost like preordained, Eric comes on.
Aliens called.
Aliens called, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I was actually in the pre-show, I was going to talk maybe a little bit about this because Pentagon has a deadline of June.
Yes.
To begin to declassify some of this stuff. And it's, I'm waiting, I'm going to remain skeptical to see what's redacted and exactly what it is we're going to get. Hopefully it's a bit more, but I will tell you this, if we find out it's not an extraterrestrial intelligence, and this is invading our airspace and we got no chance against it, if it is, another country,
we're in trouble. We're in trouble.
We got problems.
We're in major trouble. Yeah.
We better catch up.
It's serious business either way. If it's from China, Russia, anywhere, North Korea, it could be anywhere, we're in trouble. If it's from space and they happen to be hostile, we're in big trouble. So let's hope they're not let's hope they're not hostile.
Yeah,
maybe they want to teach us something.
But that's been the problem all along because this is not a new phenomenon. This has been going on for decades and decades and decades. Only now are we catching it with our radar and infrared technology. But this has been going on for decades, and up to this point, nobody wanted to admit that because you have such a national security threat.
Right,
with these things, but now we have reached the point that it's undeniable anymore.
And people say to me, or they send me emails and say, "Do you think it could be devils that are coming in the form of aliens?" And my answer to that would be no, because a devil would just come as a devil.
Yeah.
Why would it come? Why would it want to fool you for decades as an alien? No.
Well, there's another.
I believe it's another life form, and I believe it was created by God.
Right. There's the third option, though, too. The third option is that it is our technology, and because of the amount of animosity that's going on in the world right now, it might be a proper time to say, "Hey, guys, yeah, we got all this stuff. We've had this stuff for quite some time."
That is a possibility. You can't deny. You can't discount anything today.
No, kind of compress.
Really can't.
Yeah.
That could be true. If that, I would wish that was the case, that the U.S. had that technology, because we don't want other countries. They'll just they would overtake us in a heartbeat. But the bigger question would be, the bigger question is, if they had that technology, why would they wait for decades to come and do something to us? Well, are they honing it in or something? I don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
But I don't think they're devils. People would say to me, are they devils? No. Devils, they may want to fool you, but a devil will come in the guise of your grandmother rather than an alien. You know what I mean? Try to suck you in with like confidence that, I've been talking to my grandmother, and it's the devil or demon you're talking to. That's more like it than having for decades some spacecraft flying around just to fool us.
Yeah. Well, they've got a little less than a month to give up the farm on this. So I know this is something that we're going to talk about on this channel, and hopefully maybe we can get somebody in here when that time comes to give us a kind of review once we get the information. So yeah,
it's gonna be very interesting. It really
very
is. Because none of us know. Not one person on the earth really knows for sure. I mean, the general public, for what it is, except somebody probably knows, and maybe they will disclose it to us.
Yeah.
But it could be people that have been demanding and protesting and looking for governmental disclosure with regards to this, that are going to be the ones most celebrating, if in fact it is the aspect of extraterrestrial contact that has been going on for the last 40, 50 years, that they can say, finally, you guys have spoken up to it. I've always been one of those people, though, Tony, that I sit there and said, look, if this was a collaboration between our government or our world and other species, if the species wanted to come forward, they could do it at any time. Their technology is so far advanced over ours, they could have just landed in Central Park or whatever they wanted to do. Now, what I want to try to find out at this point in time is your thoughts on whether or not there are going to be implications for that. And I brought this up in other discussions before, and I want your take on this. They admit to the existence of extraterrestrials, and they say we've been in contact with extraterrestrials. Now comes the topics of medicine and theology.
Yeah.
There will be those both in government or be pressured by religion that are in government to ask, do these aliens believe in God? Then there will also be those others who say, can they help cure everything from cancer to what we're dealing with right now with the coronavirus?
Right.
There's going to be high demand when that kind of advanced species has been presented to us. I mean, you think there'll be a balance, or you think it'll be a little bit of chaotic?
I think it's going to be. I think it's going to be the way the aliens want it to be. Period. In other words, they're going to decide how it's going to be disseminated. They're going to decide everything because, like you said, it's so far advanced. We don't have any alternatives but to listen to what they're saying to us. What my not core belief, but what kind of I believe right now is happening is that the aliens have already contacted government authorities and told them, look, you're going to tell them this, and this is what you're going to tell them, and this is when you're going to tell them, or we're going to do such and such. Like,
makes sense.
We're going to take out New York City unless you start to admit that we're here and we're going to do A, B, and C. So you better get your act together. I think that's something that might, because the government, why would they wait? Why would it be 70, 60, 70 years, and all of a sudden a light bulb goes off and they go, hey, let's tell everybody about what we do. No.
Backs against the wall.
They're being forced to tell, because the government's not going to do anything just on their own, on the goodness of their heart, to let us know that, hey, by the way, we're not alone. I think it's like, by the way, we're not alone. We have to tell you this because we're being threatened. They're not going to tell us they're being threatened, but they could be being threatened by the aliens right now, saying, you got until such and such a date to start disseminating what we want you to tell them. I think that's what's happening, really.
Yeah,
That's
I
my
think
thought.
that someone came up with. I was just watching that tonight, and I think I was watching Chris Mellon and the radar operator on the USS Princeton. They
Hmm.
were on talking about this, and the radar operator on the
I
Princeton.
ghost more girls. I ghost more
Is
girls. They just said I agree, Tony. They're my favorite people now because they agreed with me.
But the radar operator on the Princeton had said, well, you got to look at it this way. If they're that much more advanced than us, this would be like them visiting and talking to the animals.
Yeah,
And we're not quite ready in their minds to receive that. Or maybe we are at this point, or maybe we've reached a crisis phase where we're not ready, but here we come ready or not.
yeah, yeah. I think it's maybe, maybe aliens know more than the general public knows about our own government. In other words, maybe they know that one of our governments, not U.S. necessarily, is ready to push a button. Maybe they know that somebody's ready to push a nuclear button, and it's going to cause such havoc in the world that they're going to intervene before that happens because they know
Right.
when it's going to happen. That they're that more advanced. I'm not saying reading our minds, but the telecommunications from other countries, and maybe they picked it all up. Maybe they know somebody's planning some big bomb attack, and they're going to stop it. Who knows? It could be a million different scenarios. It really could.
Yeah,
Just like with
time is
ghosts.
now.
Just like with ghosts. Let's go back to ghosts for a sec.
Yeah, yeah.
Everybody wants to talk about ghosts and paranormal. Uh,
Well,
Go ahead.
I'll tell you what. One of the things that, and I know we got a bunch of questions here, and again, I ask everybody in chat because Tony, you're going to see people in there from Ireland, Scotland, England.
Yeah, I love it.
I mean, our audience is pretty diverse, and they're great. Want to talk a
You
little bit
just named
about?
three of my favorite countries, by the way.
There you go. I named three of them right off the bat,
Because I
just
love
like
it.
that.
Because Ed and Lorraine and I and Judy have gone to Scotland and England, Wales, and Lorraine and I have gone to Ireland.
Hmm.
And it's all of those countries are just fantastic places. And if you guys want really good Scotch, go to Scotland. You want really
Yeah.
good Irish whiskey, go to Ireland. I tell you,
Yeah,
they're
right.
fantastic people, though. They really are. They treated us very, very well. And
Yeah.
I met uh, uh, Van Morrison. You know Van Morrison? He's like
Yeah.
One-Eyed Girl.
Sure.
I shouldn't say I met him. I was in Belfast at the Culloden Hotel, which is a pretty ritzy place. The people who brought Lorraine and I in there said, we're going to put you up in a nice hotel. So I just thought it was going to be like a Holiday Inn. It was the Culloden, which is like about $400 or $600 a night. And in the morning, we had breakfast. Lorraine, the people who brought us in, and me. And we're leaving, and the Irish gentleman who took us in, who brought us there, he said, by the way, look back there, that's Van Morrison eating a sausage. And I look back, he's cutting up a sausage. And then the guy says to me, the guy who brought us in, he says, but don't say anything to him, he's a grouchy bastard. Because he knew Van Morrison. Because he used to do concert acts and things, this guy who brought us in. He says,
Right.
don't go up to him, he's a grouchy bastard. And Van Morrison just happened to look up at me and look back down at the sausage. So I kind of met him.
Yeah, I have a choice here. I'm taking the sausage.
Yeah.
But speaking of, and of course, we want to get into your in-laws. Now, one of the things, people come to the paranormal for different reasons. Some people have had an experience in their life. Others are just curious.
Right.
Others want validation. Now, my wife grew up in Bridgeport, Connecticut, ironically enough.
So did mine. So did
Yeah.
my wife.
Yeah.
And so did Lorraine.
And now, Ed lived in a haunted house. So, in conversations that you had with him, did he always have this desire to push and find out a little bit more? Or was this particular house, when he was a young man, before he entered the service, was this house his gateway into the paranormal? Is this the thing that he went, wow, I need to know more?
I'd say so, because he explained it to me that he and his twin sister, Babe, grew up in that house. He said he told me from the age of 5 to the age of 12, he lived in that house and it was haunted. Mm-hmm. And I said to him, well, Ed, what do you mean? What was wrong in that house? He goes, well, it was so bad in that house, Tone, that he said, my sister would be out somewhere with her aunt or somebody. He goes, but I'd come home from school, like in the wintertime, he'd come home from school, and it was on Jane Street in Bridgeport. And he said, it was like a 3-family house. And he said he'd come back he'd walk home from school, and if there weren't any lights on in the house, because it was kind of dark in the wintertime there, as you know, he wouldn't go in. And I said, "What do you mean, Ed?" He said, "I'd stay outside underneath the vegetable carts that the old Italian people had, and they used to cover them with a tarp in the winter and abandon them. He said, I used to hide under those tarps underneath and wait until I saw a light. Because I'd stay out there sometimes 3 or 4 hours until I saw a light in the house, then I'd go in, so I knew I wasn't alone." I said, "Well, what kind of stuff happened, Ed?" He told me one time that he was sleeping, and the closet door creaked open slowly. And he wasn't dreaming, he was wide awake, and he said this old hag-like figure, this face of an old hag woman, was scowling at him, looking at him, and giving him like a hairy eyeball, you know. So he'd put the covers back over himself. And then he said one time that he and his twin sister were sleeping. Now his grandfather, he said, had passed away like a year before. And the grandfather always used to use a cane. And when the grandfather walked up the steps, he'd have a cane, and you could hear the steps and him using the cane. And about a year after his grandfather died, though, he said he and his twin sister were sleeping upstairs. They had separate beds. Then he heard the footsteps and the cane coming up the stairs of his grandfather. And then footsteps walking around his sister and his bed in a circle all around the bed. And he said he covered himself up and he didn't look out. I said, "You didn't look at it?" He goes, "No, Dave and I were too frightened to even look." He goes, "But it was my grandfather coming to visit." And other phenomena that would happen in the house that would scare him, knockings and pounding sounds. In fact, he said his father, who was a state trooper at the time, his father Frank, used to say to Ed, when I was a little kid, "Hey Ed, don't worry about it. There's a logical reason for everything that happens here in this house." And then Ed would laugh when he would tell the story. He said, "But my father never told me the logical reason."
What's the logical reason?
He said, "It's a logical reason. Don't worry about it, kid." And he told Ed one time, when Ed was like 9 years old, "Ed, you're a man now. You go do your own thing." And Ed used to go out in the city of Bridgeport at 8, 9 years old and stay out, till 11 and 12 at night. That's the kind of upbringing he had. So he said to me, he said, "When I met Lorraine," he goes, "I never had a meal at the table." I said, "What do you mean, Ed?" He said, "When I was a kid," he goes, "I'd come home from school or come home from wherever I was." He goes, "And I'd come home and there'd be a pot of soup on the stove, and I'd grab a spoon and we'd eat out of the pot." He goes, "Everybody did that. We never sat down at dinner." He goes, "So when I was invited to Lorraine's house after I met her," he goes, "it was like a different world." He goes, "I sit down and there's a plate and silverware and everybody's around the table and being nice and polite and everything." He goes, "I didn't live that way." He goes, "I lived a completely different life than Lorraine." But when he turned 17, though, and to get back to your point, Ken, he said to Lorraine, he met her at 16 years old at the Colonial Theater in Bridgeport.
Yeah, he was an usher or something like that.
He was an usher.
Yeah, right.
Two of Lorraine's girlfriends says, "We want you to meet a boy." And she said, "I'm not into boys." So he said, "Come on, let's go to the movies anyway." So they went to the movies, Lorraine and the two girls at 16 years old. And she said, they introduced her to Ed. And at that time, Lorraine told me, she said, "No, I didn't like boys. They were too rough and tough. They were like, not nice." And she was, "I liked somebody like my brother who was very studious and very polite at home." She said, "These other guys swear," and I didn't like that. She goes, "But when I saw Ed, this young man with his tight pleated pants and his hair combed back perfectly, and she said he smelled like Noxzema," and I started laughing. I said, "Lorraine, what do you mean he smelled like Noxzema?" She said, "Well, he was a lifeguard in the summertime, in the daytime, and he gets sunburned, so he put Noxzema all over his body, and then he'd go to work as an usher, and she could smell the Noxzema." And she said she remarked to herself, she said, "He's a nice-looking young man," So she kind of like had a little bit of interest in him. And Ed said, the audience is going to like this story. It's quick. Ed said, I'll take you girls home. I'll walk you girls home after the movie, and I'll buy you guys a Coke." So they all agreed. Now remember, this is like 1926, 36, like 42 maybe, 42 maybe. And so he takes them to the ice cream fountain to the store, and the two girls order a Coke. It's 5 cents a piece for the Cokes back then.
Great.
Lorraine says, "Well, I don't want a Coke. I'll have an ice cream soda." Now the ice cream soda was 10 cents.
Yeah.
Right? So Ed used to joke around. He goes, Because I told her after I married her, always knew you were a gold digger when you ordered that ice cream soda, 10 cents. so, so, so they're walking home, and the two girls' houses are before Lorraine, so they go in, and now Ed is starting to walk Lorraine home. She goes, "No, you can't take me home." And he says, "Why not?" She said, "Because I didn't leave with you, so I can't go home with you." So he said, "Okay, I'll go. I'll see you later then." And she said he ran across the street. Now remember, Ed was like 140 pounds back then. And she said to me later, I'm talking about recently, like in the year 2000 or so. She said to me, "I didn't see the old man that I married. I didn't see the young man that I saw running across the street. I saw the older man that I had married with gray hair. And when I went home that evening,
Wow.
I wrote into my diary, today I met the boy I'm going to marry." She wrote that in her diary. "Today I met the boy I'm going to marry," and she said, "I married him." That's the first boy I ever went out with, and the last. So she never had another boyfriend besides Ed.
Wow. There you go.
There's Tom Selleck on the left.
There's that good-looking guy on the left.
That's me. That's not Tom Selleck. No, that's not Bradley Cooper. That's me.
No, that's like you should have been on a Love Boat or something like that in the 70s.
so that's the story of how they met, actually, at the Colonial Theater. And then when Ed turned 17 on his 17th birthday, he joined the U.S. Navy because the war was going on. 1943, his 17th birthday, September 7th. And he joined the Navy, and he goes to boot camp with his buddy. And Ed was a kind of a wise guy, Ken. You're not a Bridgeport guy, is that right? So,
oh yeah.
Ed was like to his friend. He goes, "Hey, look at that guy over there. He thinks he's tough. Let's go beat him up." Then little did Ed know he's talking about the lieutenant junior grade over there, and he's just a newbie. He's a newbie from the boot camp, first day in camp. And the lieutenant didn't say anything. He goes and talks to the chief, So he goes and talks to the commander. So the commander calls in Ed and the buddy. First day in boot camp. And the commander looks at Ed and his friend, and the wise guys, and he says, "You boys don't know where you are, do you? You guys are in the U.S. Navy. We ain't messing around. Take those duffel bags and run around the field 25 times. So Ed says to me, he goes, I looked at my buddy and said, "I don't think I like this Navy stuff."
As you come to Jesus moment right there.
Right. Any paranormal questions or anything you want to talk about? We're having a Paracon in October, You know that, right?
Say again, please.
We're having a Paracon, the Warren Supernatural Paracon in October in Waterbury, Connecticut.
Oh, you gotta tell us about that right now and make sure everybody knows.
You're invited.
Wonderful.
Where are you now, Ken?
Awesome.
Are you in Connecticut still?
I am close to Newport.
Okay, so you're not too far.
No.
You know where Waterbury is.
Oh, I've been there many times, Tony.
Okay, so at the Courtyard by Marriott on October 30th, the day before Halloween, we're having a para convention, and what we're going to do is we're going to have about 40 or 50 vendor tables with a lot of different kinds of people there, readers, people selling merchandise, people who have books out, paranormal groups too. Mm-hmm. We're also going to bring, believe it or not, Annabelle that you're looking at now.
There you go.
We're going to bring Annabelle. We're going to bring the movie Annabelle too. The real Annabelle, the movie Annabelle, the creature from the Devil Made Me Do It case.
There she is.
Coming out in June. I'm taking that little plastic creature with me. The Shadow Doll, the Satanic Idol that you're looking at right there, the Satanic Idol, and a surprise. And there's the Shadow Doll. I'm taking all these to have in a separate room where people can pay to go in and look at that stuff. So it's going to be pretty, and we're going to have 8 guest speakers, including Ryan Buell, myself, Carl and Linda Johnson.
Yeah.
Carl and I forget her Johnson's and other people too. A UFO guy. We're having a UFO guy too. So it's going to be really cool. It's going to be We're going to sell merchandise, and I'm going to be setting up. Believe it or not, I'm going to be setting up what's known as a psychomantium. I'm sure someone knows what a psychomantium is, but I can explain it to you if you want to know.
So that's October 30th.
October 30th and you can go to warrens.net, www.warrens.net, click on events. That's all you got to do. Warrens.net, click on events. There's Ryan Buell. He's going to be speaking. Dan Rivera is going to be speaking there too. He's one of the lead investigators for NFBI.
Yep, I know Dan well.
Dan and Chris Galoran, who's also one of the lead investigators. He's going to be there. He's helping setting up the whole thing. So is Dan. We're also having, and that's going to be a big event. We've already sold like 700 tickets, and it's not until October. So it's going to be big. But it's going to be fun, too. It's going to be really, really fun.
Yeah.
Judy will be there, and my wife will be there selling her charity bracelets. So it's going to be really good. But
I think we're ready for it, Tony. After so much isolation in the last year or so, we're ready for things like that.
yeah, we're going to hang out with everybody. I'll be walking around the floor, and so will all the guest speakers, too. We're going to have a guest speaker room that people pay a separate fee to go in there. No, I'm sorry, they don't have to pay a separate fee for that. It's general admission. They can see all the speakers. We'll have a VIP party, what I meant to say, the night before that people can sign up for and see all the speakers. We'll have food, and we'll have a cash bar and mingle with everybody. It'll be really good. And there's a lot of paranormal people coming, a lot of groups and a lot of people coming to this. So, like I said, it's going to be probably well over 1,000 people that already pre-bought. There's going to be, you can buy at the door too,
Right, sure. Well, we'll make sure in the months and the weeks leading up to that.
Well, you can. You're invited. You're invited for free. You don't have to pay for nothing. George, you're invited.
Thank you.
You don't have to pay for anything.
He's got to pick up my. You got to pick up my check, George.
I'm going to pick up your check. Yeah, that's right.
In the months and the weeks leading up to that, Tony, you have a safe haven here, so we'll make sure we promote the hell out of that for you. So
thank you.
It sounds like an awesome thing.
Yeah, it's our first one. It's the first one that the New England Society ever put on, and I felt it was time to kind of honor Ed and Lorraine a little bit more than there's all these paranormal shows and all these Paracons going on, which there's nothing wrong with them. I like them. There's nothing wrong with the Paracon conventions, but why can't we have a Warren's Paracon convention?
Sure.
And show the Annabelle, show the like you said, the pioneers of the paranormal.
They
are in that group with Harry Price, and Hans Holzer. They are in that group. So, I don't want to let that legacy. I don't want to let that history die of them. I want them to keep going on because the stuff that Ed and Lorraine taught me, and the way Ed was to people, how nice he was, and Lorraine especially too, how she loved people. It formed my character a lot more than I was when I was younger, before I met them. Now I know what it is to help others and to have compassion for people. Because Lorraine, Ed and Lorraine would do a lecture. I'd help them out with the lecture. I would talk at the end or at the beginning. I'd introduce them. I'd run the slide projector. I'd run the sound equipment. And then I'd picked up all these bits and pieces from Ed as he talked and did a Q&A. But as we're leaving, almost every time we had a presentation, and we did a lot. I probably did 1,000 presentations with Ed and Lorraine. As we're leaving, a lot of times it'd be late at night. I'd be very tired. Ed would be super tired. He'd say, "Tom, let's go get a hamburger. Let's get out of here." It'd be like, 12:30 on a Wednesday night. We're tired. So we look back, and there's Lorraine talking to someone. "Lorraine, come on, let's go." And she'd start to walk forward. Somebody would say, "Lorraine, just one more question." She would stay there until she satisfied that person who asked her the question. She would not be like, "Well, we have to go eat."
Right.
We didn't say that. But we're hungry. We'll see you later. And we're walking out and they're talking to us and we're walking away from them. Not Ed, not Lorraine. I'm sorry, not Lorraine. She would turn around. "Yes, dear, how can I help you?" And she would take the time, no matter who it was, no matter how crazy the question was, no matter how goofy the person looked, she'd be right there like they were her best friend. And she'd stay there until they were satisfied, and she helped them. She helped them with an answer.
Yeah.
So I learned a lot about patience, about compassion, about being nice to everybody, not just people who are nice looking or who look smart or who look educated, anybody, just people are people. And a lot of people need help. And that's how Lorraine was. She was. We see her for lunch on a Saturday, Judy and me, and she'd say, "Oh, I'm a little tired today." "Why, Lorraine?" "Well, the phone rang at about 3 in the morning. I had to help somebody." I said, "Lorraine, you didn't let it go to the answer machine?" She goes, "No." I said, "Well, how long did you talk to him?" "Oh, about an hour and a half." 3 o'clock in the morning, she picks up the phone and doesn't say, "Call me back." She listens.
Yeah.
She goes over things for an hour and a half with people, and she's done that. She used to do that multiple times. She would tell us that she was up half the night with people. That for free, she don't charge anything.
Yeah.
That's what you call someone who's dedicated to the work.
Ken, I know we normally hold it till the end, but there's been a few along the way here that I want to definitely bring in from the chat as far as questions. And
Sure.
Tony, this one first from the Ghost More Girls. Again,
Yes.
this is when you go to the museum, does it feel like a normal room to you personally from being around it, or do you still feel energy?
No, it doesn't feel like a normal room at all. I feel energy. It's just almost the same kind of energy that I felt the first time Ed ever brought me in. When Ed first brought me in there, and I remember I met Ed in 1979. I know I don't look that old. I know I only look like about the same age
30.
as Bradley Cooper.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But actually, I'm older than rock and roll. Let's put it that way. I was born before rock and roll. For that
Good
reason.
genes.
So
So,
I walked in with Ed, and I felt kind of strange. I was about 29 years old. I felt funny. He said, "I'm going to go in the other room for a minute." He was fooling around with me because he said, "No, you shouldn't be alone in this room." So we walk in the room. It's like about 7 o'clock at night. It was the first time I was ever in there. He said, "Oh, I got to go make a phone call. I'll be right back." He starts to walk out. I'm like, "Ed, where are you going?" I said, "You told me not to be alone in here." So he started laughing. He was a prankster. He used to prank. So he said, "No, you shouldn't actually be alone at the dark hours of the night because vibrations build up in a small space like this. Plus, the dark hours of the night are the psychic hours of the night. And so, if I go in there even now, I feel energy that's not really the best energy that can be had. Even though we have the place blessed, we have incantations, I should say, prayers and rituals said, Catholic prayers said around it, around the objects at any museum. But I still feel it. It's still not a comfortable situation. No.
Yeah, I've been privileged to visit John Zavis at his home, and
Right.
I've gone inside his museum, which is the barn in the backyard.
Right.
And yeah, without question, you can definitely sense that you're in the presence of other energies.
Because you know why? It's the opposite of something holy, something
Yes,
blessed. When you walk into a church, and I don't really know or care who you are. When you walk into a church, you get almost a sense of peace. You feel good. You know why? Because it's God's house.
yes.
It's blessed, and there's good vibes coming from
The
it.
energy is all
The energy is
positive,
good and
not
positive.
negative.
But when you
Right.
walk into a place like that, like the Warren's Occult Museum, for instance, that's the opposite of walking into a church because the way these things were used, these objects were used in satanic rituals, in black witchcraft rituals, incantations, and used for
Horrible
pain
things.
and
Yeah,
to inflict pain and to inflict death in some cases.
yeah.
So it's like when a priest blesses an object, he infuses it with holiness. But the opposite is done with these objects through witchcraft and through incantations.
Exactly. I got another question, though, but Mr. DaCosta, this actually is for you. Is the Rhode Island Paracon happening this year?
uh, I'm going to say yes, but right now, like everybody else, we're kind of at the mercy of what's going on there with the state and their guidelines and everything like that, Jason. Massachusetts, we're having it at the casino, Plain Ridge. Um, so right now, Massachusetts has said as of May 20, I don't want to take up a lot of time, but May 29th, they're going to relax things. We just want to check with the venue, make sure everything's cool, because we don't want to have a kind of thing where we can only have 25 people. I mean, that's not even going to cover a quarter of the vendors. So I'm going to say yes because it looks like we're on the right path right now, but thank you for asking.
Fingers
Yeah,
crossed.
I think it'll be relaxed by then, Ken. By that time,
I
I
hope
think
so.
they lift all restrictions because in Connecticut they lifted all restrictions on May 19th, so everybody's
Mhm.
going to follow. When are you going to have that? When you're supposed to have that Paracon?
Well, typically we have it in July.
I think it'll be.
We bumped it to August, and they're
Well,
talking about the fall. So
yeah.
we're kind of leaving options open right now,
Well,
Tony.
I would tend to think that you are going to be good to go. I really do.
We have a question for Bradley Cooper.
Yes,
Do you feel the need to prepare yourself spiritually when entering the occult museum?
absolutely, absolutely. I say ritualistic prayers. I say actually I do the rosary before I go in, and I take it very very seriously because when you start to take it unseriously, or I should say when you start to get jaded about it, like, well, I've been in this museum so many times that nothing's going to happen. That's when something can happen.
Let your guard down. Yeah.
Yeah, and actually, I did a YouTube. I was doing a few YouTube videos alone in there in the daytime. I never did them at night alone. And one of the videos, if you went back and looked at the channel on the official Ed and Lorraine Warren channel, one of the videos I'm talking about the white lady. I'm talking about Rod Vesey, one of the gentlemen who saw the white lady when he was coming home from work one night. So Rod is describing it to Ed and to me. He said, as I'm driving down the road along Route 59 about 1 o'clock at night, I sense something in my passenger seat. I look over and I see an older man, like dressed from like the 1940s, with a hat on, a stubbly beard. I give a double take. I look back and the guy's gone. I look at the road, and there's the white lady, a lady dressed in white with a veil, about 35 yards away in the road. And he's going about 35. She's 35 yards away. He said, I started to apply the brake. And as I hit the brake, it's like she jumped forward, like right like this. He goes, and she went like right, a wisp of air went right by my ear, my right ear, like this. And when I played the video back, I went, a wisp of air went like right by me. You could hear a little voice say, "Wee, wee." It wasn't me, and somebody commented, "Did you hear that wee voice?"
Oh
I
my
played
God.
it back, and yes, it's still on there. You hear wee. When I went like this, somebody went wee, like mocking me, like they were mocking me. So it's still activity in that museum for sure, absolutely. That's the that's probably the Union graveyard right there that you're looking at. I believe that's the Union Cemetery right there. I think that's my video. And that was founded in 1760. That's where the white lady's been spotted numerous times by many, many people.
Now, when they talk about Union Graveyard, Union Cemetery, excuse my ignorance on this, but are we talking about two different things? Because graveyards and cemeteries are different.
No, Ed used to call it the graveyard.
Okay.
It's called the Union Graveyard, even though the sign said Union Cemetery.
Right.
And it said Union Cemetery founded in 1760, but somebody stole the sign. But Ed always used to call it, I went by Union Graveyard, so I call it graveyard or something. I say both interchangeably, you know.
Yeah.
But the white lady has been spotted many, many times. Probably the most documented case of seeing ghosts, though, was the Flight 401, the ghost of Flight 401 in the Everglades. In Florida, 1972.
Oh yeah.
When the Eastern Flight 1011 went down in the Everglades, and there were some survivors, but a lot of people died in that flight, and a lot of wreckage was in the Everglades. The Eastern Airlines went down to recover the wreckage, and they used, believe it or not, some of the
different parts.
Some of the parts, like the galley trays.
Yeah.
Some of the seats were okay. The flight recorder, the voice recorder was okay. They put them on different flights. Those flights that had the replacement parts, Don Repo, the flight engineer, would show up on those flights in full uniform.
That's correct.
And sitting in a seat. The flight attendants, the passengers, the pilot, the co-pilot all saw this. And it got to such an extent where people were inquiring, and it was such big news that Eastern Airlines finally relented and took those parts off the plane, and his appearances stopped. So it's a book out called, I think it's by a guy named Fuller, Ghost of Flight 401. That's probably the most documented as far as mass witnessing of a ghost.
And you have to understand, everybody in chat, how rare that is for an admission from the airlines, that maybe they did it very quietly, or they thought they were, that was an actually admission to that. I wanted to, because we're going to intersperse here with questions, to hell with them, because people are rolling them in. I'm not going to keep them from you. The farmhouse. Back in 2010, before everything happened, my group was actually the last one to investigate that farmhouse. We just knew somebody who knew somebody who knew somebody.
Right.
And I had zero. I know that Ed and Lorraine were there, but I had zero frame of reference on anything else. So my question to you is that, and I know you have said this in other interviews, where out of this entire Conjuring franchise, the original one in your mind was the closest to hitting the nail on the head in terms of who Ed and Lorraine were and that particular case.
Yes.
As far as the portrayal before, we know how movies are with dramatic license and things that never happen, so we understand that. But what distinguished, in your mind, that movie above or beyond all the rest that followed, Tony?
Yeah, I'd say basically it was how Ed and Lorraine investigated the case.
Mm-hmm.
That's the part that I thought was really true to life, because Ed used to go in. He'd go in lightheartedly, but he'd quickly become serious. And his whole focus was to try to find what was there and to try to help the family. So the way Ed walked in would talk about, like, oh, it came in threes, three knocks, three pounding sounds, and it stopped. And the way
Right.
Lorraine acted, the compassion, that was true to life. The banging sounds, all the hair being pulled, things like that, is all stuff that happened in the house.
Mm-hmm.
The fake parts got towards the end, when you got
Right.
her sitting in a chair, levitating off the chair, covered with a sheet. That never happened. Ed never gave an exorcism of the house. He didn't give a pseudo exorcism of the house or anything or of the person. So that was maybe 65% accurate. The rest was made up. Conjuring 2 was probably 35% accurate, and the rest was made up. I'm just guessing. There's threads of truth throughout the whole thing, but
Right.
I'd say it's the closest because of the way Ed acted, the way Lorraine acted, the kind of phenomena that happened, the knocking sounds, the thinking somebody's there behind the door, that kind of thing, because that's what real haunted house phenomena is. Where somebody would see something behind the door, but nobody else sees it, like a black mass. And the reason for that, Ken, where like I would see, say I go on a case with you, and I go, Ken, look over there, look at that black mass in the corner, and I see it with my physical eye, and you look and you don't see anything,
Right.
and George looks, he doesn't see anything. What's the first thing that you think? Tony's seeing things. We don't see it. It's through telepathic hypnosis that I saw it. In other words, the ghost or spirit wants me to see it. Why? To make me look foolish when I tell you, yeah, it's right there. It's right there, George. And 4 people are looking, they don't see it. Now they think I'm a little cuckoo. So if a family member does that, family member says, look in the corner there. And everybody in the house says, what are you talking about? There's nothing there. They think the person might be a little cuckoo. Start driving them a little nuts. Makes them look foolish. That's the goal of that spirit, of the evil entity, as you know.
See, I've always embraced the two parts of that are presentation from the spirit and perception, how you receive it. And it
Right.
could be meant for the individual. So
Yeah.
I embrace that idea, and I always have. I got a 2-part question for you, actually.
Right.
Overall view on the amount of people that are coming into the field as demonologists. Now, I am willing to wager a lot of these people were inspired by Ed and Lorraine. There's little to no question about it. And with the movies and everything, it motivates people, so forth and so on. But that number's increased exponentially.
Yes.
So, kind of a 2-part question for you. Do you think that people are coming in that are well equipped enough to do this? How do you feel? And if it's possible, how do you think Ed felt or how he would feel about the number of people who are coming into this right now? Do you think most people are even close to equipped to handle some of this stuff?
No, they're not equipped at all. Actually, most of them.
Mm.
Let me put it this way, Ken. Ed taught me a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Ed taught me massive amounts, and so did Lorraine, of information, of what to do, of what a demon, their MO is. When George asked me what my title was tonight, I didn't say demonologist, did I?
Yeah.
I said founder. I said director of the NESPR and
Right.
son-in-law of Ed and Lorraine Warren. I know a lot about devils and demons. Am I a demonologist? I don't call myself that. Let's leave it at that. Because I know how much knowledge Ed had in comparison to me. It's like a master in Taekwondo or karate. The master always knows a little bit more than the student because he's been doing it longer.
Sure.
He's had more experience in it. He fought more. He knows more. He knows more situations. And that was me in Taekwondo class. Yeah, I got my black belt in March of 2020. That's Master Chris on the right. He's a 4th degree master. You don't want to mess with him at all. But and he's the greatest, nicest guy in the world. But getting back to that, no, because I mean it's laudable that people want to copy Ed and want to be so-called demonologists, but it's dangerous also because it's almost like, to give you a comparison, Ken, it's like if I went to the library tonight and I read Grey's Anatomy, and then in my next breath I create a website and I say, I'm a medical doctor. I know all about medicine because I read Grey's Anatomy and I watched the documentary on medicine. Does that make me a doctor? Does that make me good? No, it makes me nuts because I don't know even an iota of what I should know. Yeah. But I'm calling myself something I'm not. So I don't call myself a demonologist for that reason, because I don't think I know nearly as much as Ed knew. So these folks that are 20 years old, 22, 19, 30 years old, but they've been on 7 cases, they read 3 books, they're not a demonologist. They're a ghost investigator maybe, psychic researcher, ghost hunter, but they're not a demonologist. Ed was only one of 7 recognized back in 1969.
Right.
He was the only lay demonologist. In other words, he was the only non-clergy because he went on thousands of cases. He talked to hundreds of scientists, to priests, to different clergy, studied, read. He read every book he could on demons and devils. And he used to tell me, he goes, you have to know your enemy, Tom. You have to know your enemy to fight him. So Ed was a demonologist, a lay demonologist. But these people today, no, they're not equipped. They're going into dangerous territory. And if it doesn't affect them, it doesn't hurt them, it hurts the family. Because they're going to say or do something wrong, incorrectly, and either scare the heck out of the family and torment them more, or they're going to fail to help them, even though they say, oh, I can get rid of it, and then it gets worse. So I don't go for that.
What would you say to people, because I want to bring George in, I know we got another question here, but what would you say to people, because we've asked this question before, we've had Bishop James Long on, a few other people, so I'm going to ask you, how does a person's faith play into a potential demonic entanglement? And what I mean by that is, and this is like, this question maybe answers itself, but does a non-believer or a skeptic risk just as much at risk as someone who is devoutly religious? In other words, is it just enough to say, I don't believe in any of this, so I'm good?
No, that's not enough to say that, because people who don't believe do get attacked. And we know that because we've gone into houses and asked the people, do you have any religion? They'd say, no. You believe in God? Well, I don't know. There's something out there, I guess, but I don't know. I don't pray to anybody. And they get attacked. So I think you get attacked believing in God and having strong faith, because that is a test of your faith. And God allows that because God is allowing that test to happen to either strengthen your faith or to go towards Him, to get more faith, to get more guidance through Him. So it's like to push somebody towards God, because Ed used to say to me, and Lorraine, I never met an atheist in a haunted house. That's what Ed used to say to me. And what he meant by that was they quickly found God.
Yeah.
Quickly found, when they saw that they couldn't physically fight this thing, that it wasn't like calling a cop and the cop pushes the thing out the door and arrests it. They can't do that. They're still getting tormented. Something's watching them all the time. Something's grabbing them, scratching their arms, yelling at them, shaking the bed, pulling the covers off, and they can't stop it. They start to find religion really quick.
Yeah. I'm going to get to one other question, because I'm going to let George in here, and I'm going to take a little siesta here. Monica asked question for Tony. What's the best paranormal related advice that Ed or Lorraine gave you? And is there anything in the museum that really creeps you out? Okay, 2-part question.
All right, let's get to the museum part first. It's the Annabelle doll. That creeps me out.
Okay.
Also, though, the shadow doll creeps me out. the shadow doll because the way it's made. Everybody knows the Annabelle story and that
Right.
shadow
Right.
doll is made specifically to harm others because it has animal parts in it. It has bird feathers. It has nails and bone in it, created with the intent of scaring the living daylights out of someone and also cursing someone. Someone who's very knowledgeable, like a sorcerer or a wizard, who knows how to place a curse. All they simply would have to do, George and Ken, is take a photograph of that doll, print out the photo. On the back of the photo, write the curse. But you have to be very knowledgeable. You write the curse on the back, send it to George or Ken or me, with the intent of harming us. Just by us accepting that photograph of that shadow doll, and the curse was written on the back, unbeknownst to me, I accepted that curse. So that's why it's a very dangerous object. It's just the way it looks, though, that creeps me out.
Sure.
Super, super bad. Well, the greatest advice probably Ed ever gave me was to believe that the Lord is more powerful than the devil, and though that the devil is a real entity. Ed used to say to me, "The devil is real, you know. It's not just a mythological figure that we could compare evil and good." He used to tell me it's a real entity, and the devil is a con artist, and the devil is a massive liar. Even though it's the prince, and he's the prince of darkness. So their whole job, he said, is to destroy us, destroy human beings, destroy our faith in the God, to create havoc in our lives. And he does it so insidiously, though. And a lot of times you're not aware it's the devil that's doing it. In other words, temptation. Don't tell me you haven't been tempted by something. It could be alcohol. It could be women. It could be money, greed. That temptation is evil, right? That is evil. God wouldn't want you to lust after money, to lust after drugs and alcohol. That's like a false God. But the devil does. The devil wants to do that because it wants to lead you down that garden path of destruction away from God. So Ed used to tell me, you're always fighting that. You're always fighting temptation. But you got to believe wholeheartedly that God is more powerful than any devil or demon, and God will protect you. Always have to invoke God's name when you go into a house.
Okay. We do have questions. We're going to come back on that on the other side right now, George. I'm going to bring you on in here and, get another glass of water here. So I will be back. Tony, we'll see you shortly, huh?
All right, Ken.
Yeah.
You betcha.
No problem.
And as we are approaching the top of the hour, for those of you just joining us, our very special guest tonight, Tony Spera. And if Tony, you need to take a break yourself as well, we can do that.
I'm good.
All right. Talking about those investigators who claim to be demonologists and go out and they've been doing it for the last 15, 18 years. There's two particular things that come to mind. But one, there's the old saying, you may not believe in God, but God believes in you. Well, there's the antithesis of that. You may not believe in the devil, but the devil believes in you. And so you got to be very aware what is happening around you in this field and in life in general. Okay, let's get some questions here again from the chat. This is from Retta Janetti Vadnais. Tony, why does the priest have to regularly do a binding prayer for the museum objects? And how is it safe to bring them to the Paracon around the public?
Okay, well,
good question.
It's a good question, and I'm going to answer it hopefully good. We do it because evil vibrations, the evilness can build up. Just like any vibrations that are negative in a close area, like a museum, can build up. So negativity can build up, even though they're blessed. Now, even though they're blessed, we don't know how effective the blessing is. We use a very pious priest, a traditional Catholic priest, who comes to the museum. He blesses each and every object, including the whole museum first. Then he walks in and he uses holy oil, holy water, and blesses it. Now, why is it safe? Well, the object that's the most dangerous one is the Annabelle doll and the shadow doll. They're both in cases, glass and wood case. Does that protect the person? I think it does, because we don't want and first of all, they're blessed, and there's incantations and rituals set around them to keep whatever's there inside the glass.
Right.
It's touching the objects that is dangerous. In other words, Ed used to tell me that, we all generate an aura around ourselves. Everything that's alive today has an aura. We call it a supernatural glow around your body that we can't really see. Some psychics like Lorraine could see the aura, the various colors. See the glow behind me from the lamp and the light, almost like that, but different colors coming off you, and it means different things to a psychic. God created you. A plant has the same kind of aura. Animals, grass, anything that's alive has an aura. That's our human aura. And Ed used to tell me, you don't want to mingle the human aura with the evil aura of that object that might be infused within that object. So if you touch it, your aura may mingle. So what you do is you put it in glass so nobody can physically with their skin touch it. And we ever have to move the doll, which I had to do a couple of times, I drench my hands in blessed holy water, and I have a priest say a prayer over me, a blessing, bless the object. Then I use heavy gloves, like a welding gloves, or a comforter, and encase it around the doll and put it where I got to put it. It takes like 2 seconds. And why do I do it? Ed told me that's how you move the doll safely. He said, nothing's going to happen to you if you pray to God for protection first.
Right.
Envision yourself in the white light all around your aura, a glowing white light of protection. Ask God to protect you during this process. Have your hands drenched in water and cover the object with a blanket or something and move it quickly, and that's it. If you have to ever move it. So we moved it into a portable case. Right. And it stays in that portable case. It doesn't leave. It's locked in. The portable case, Dan Rivera, as you guys know him, my investigator, he created the case. But what he did, he went to the priest. He got holy oil, holy water. And when he built this wooden case and he stained it, he infused the holy water and the holy stain, oil into the stain as he stained the whole case. Written behind Annabelle, behind the felt, is the Lord's Prayer. On either side is a cut out crosses, and underneath is the St. Michael Archangel prayer, and in the front is a crucifix. So we have three crosses for Holy Trinity. We have the Lord's Prayer. We have blessed holy oil and holy water infused in the wood, and the prayer behind it, and nobody touches it. It's locked in there. So when we carry it around, we don't carry the doll physically, just the case with the doll inside. So we believe it's safe to do because Ed told me that if you have to transport it, that's how you should do it. And why do I do it? Because I get so many requests from interested paranormal investigators who want to see the museum, who want to see the doll. I can't show them the museum any longer because the zoning department shut me down. So
of course,
I figured if I can take her to the Paracon, put her in a room, have a rope in front of it so nobody can even touch the glass, and I have a bodyguard there with the other artifacts, which we will have security there, and they can just witness it from 6 feet away or so. Fine. I witness it every time I go in there and nothing happens to me, even though I bless myself and I get blessed. So I think it's safe. I think it's what you do with the object that makes it. In other words,
or don't do.
Right. I can't control people. George, if you walked into the museum and I brought you in, and I said, George, there's Annabelle, and you to yourself looked at it and said, you're nothing. If you could do anything, do it to me right now. You didn't even have to say it aloud. If you said it to yourself, you just challenged whatever's in that doll. It's the challenge that's the danger. Is when you start to make like there's no problem here, that's not real. That's when you got a problem. So I never challenge it.
And this is not like a fight on the street where you push somebody and they push back. You push somebody and they walk away, and about a month later, they got a sniper rifle up in a tower somewhere. They're waiting for you then.
And that's exactly what happens because, like what happened with the kid on the motorcycle. When Ed had a small group of college kids, people. He was about 20 years old. Came with his girlfriend on a motorcycle. Everybody was very attentive, very courteous. Ed starts talking about the doll. Ed talks about the slash marks that appeared on the fiance's chest and stomach. That's when the kid went, this is a bunch of BS. But he didn't say BS. He said the whole word.
Yeah.
This is a bunch of, and Ed just cautioned everybody, don't touch anything. Don't challenge anything. He says, this is a bunch of BS. He runs up to the case, banging with his finger on the glass. This is a bunch of BS. Do something to me if you could do anything. And that's when Ed stopped him and said, you and your girlfriend, you got to go now.
Yeah.
And the kid's mocking it on the way out. Oh, you people believe this BS? He leaves. 3 hours later, he got in a head-on crash with a tree, with a motorcycle. The girl did not die. She lived. She was seriously injured, but she said that the last thing that she recalled was they were laughing and joking around about the doll when he lost control of the bike. Now, it wasn't Annabelle. I can't say it was Annabelle, but why would you mess around with something like that? A lot of things happen when people challenged Annabelle. Same thing happened to a priest where his car was demolished when he said he picked it up before it was in a case. It was back in 1980, maybe. He picked it up. It was in a chair in the corner with a rope in front of it. And he went right past it when Ed said, don't touch anything in here, Father. He grabbed it, picked it up, threw it across the museum floor and said, God is more powerful than any devil or demon. And that's when Ed shook his head and said, Father, why did you do that? I just told you not to. I don't care. God is more powerful than any devil or demon. Ed said, yeah, you're right, Father. God is, but no priest is. No human being is.
Right. Nothing
Nothing happened at that moment. But when he got in his brand new car that he was showing off to Ed and Lorraine that night to go back to his rectory in Hartford, he crashed. He said he called Ed up about a week later. He was injured, not too serious. The car was totaled. He calls up Ed, starts to say, he starts crying on the phone. Father, what's the matter? I should have listened to you, Ed. I should have listened to you. Well, what do you mean? The last thing I can recall was looking in the rearview mirror on Route 84, when I saw the image of the doll and I lost control of the car. Was it the doll? I don't know, but I remember back about 2 years after that when we were doing a lecture in Canton, Connecticut, but in 1983 maybe. Father Bill, he's deceased now, but Father Bill Charbonneau. He was in the front row, and Ed was showing all the slides. Ed gets to the Annabelle slide, and I looked over at Father Bill. Here's what Father Bill did. I swear to God. Here's what Father Bill did. Look right down in his lap. The whole time Ed was showing the slide and talking about Annabelle, he's like this. He's like this.
Not again.
Then he goes on to another thing, and then the guy looks up. The priest looks up. He did not want to even look at the doll anymore. That's how scared he was. Another time, you're not going to believe this, George, and the audience made me not believe it. Not about Annabelle, but about a priest. This is called transfiguration. There's a priest that Ed worked with. We call him Father A for Father Anonymous. We're doing a lecture in Milford, Connecticut at a Holiday Inn. No, I'm sorry. It was a high school auditorium. I think it was Milford. And we're setting up the equipment in the beginning. I look in the back of the audience. People are dribbling in. I see this big fat priest coming in. He must have been about 300 pounds. A roly-poly priest. I looked up at Ed. I go, Ed, who's that guy? Who's that priest? He glances. He doesn't really look. He goes, that must be Father A. Lorraine invited him tonight. So I said, oh, really? Okay. So we're still setting up stuff. It didn't start yet. Me and Ed walk over to the priest. I want to see who it is. I know Father A. I walk up to this guy. He's about 6 feet tall, 300 pounds. I'm looking at him. I'm saying, is that Father A? And Ed goes, is that you, Father? He goes, yeah, it's me. It's Father such and such. Oh, okay, yeah, I'm glad you came tonight. I look at him. I look in his eyes. I go, that could be Father A. I walk away. Ed says, boy, he gained a lot of weight, didn't he? I said, yeah, is that Father A? He goes, yeah, that's Father A. It's him. He goes, but he gained about 100 pounds. I said, yeah, no kidding, he gained 100 pounds. Ed, he's fat. After the program, 2-hour program we put on, Lorraine and Ed go up to him. You want to come to a diner with us, Father? Oh, yeah, okay, I'll take my own car. I'll meet you at the diner. We go to the diner, about 5 minutes away. We park. Father A pulls up. You're not going to believe it. I know you're not going to believe it. He gets out of the car. I said, Ed, look at him. He goes, no. I said, look at him, Ed. The guy was like thin, about 180 pounds. I said, Ed, that's Father A. He goes, yeah, well, that was Father A before. I go, Ed, he weighed 300 pounds. Ed says, You know what that is? I go, no. He goes, that's transfiguration. He's not who he says he is. I go, come on, Ed. I said, come on. He goes, Tom, I'm telling you, look at him. Now we go into the diner. We're sitting there. I'm dumbfounded. I'm like, I can't believe this is happening to me. I look at him, I go, and we're talking. I go, Father, how much do you weigh? Oh, same as I always did, about 193. I said, really? Yeah. And I didn't say anything else. We get back in the car. He goes, Tom, that's exactly what it was. Transfiguration. He was presenting somebody that he's not. That blew my mind, George. It blew my mind.
So we're always programmed.
Event?
Yeah, we're always programmed that the face is the distortion, that they can't complete that. But
I could hardly tell. Only the eyes.
Okay. That was the giveaway.
I was blown away. I mean, now, do you believe in a paranormal after that? You bet you do.
Better.
And he said, Tone, there's something he's hiding. There's something about this guy. Come and find out later. He was like, perverted.
Talk about a brush with evil.
Yep.
Now, Tony Spera is our guest tonight, ladies and gentlemen. I know Ken's probably been popping around, also checking the chat for questions. I have one more I want to address because it's something that I'm curious about. You're a very prolific speaker. There's no two ways about that. And watching on the official Ed and Lorraine Warren YouTube channel, you doing the tours, that back and forth every item that's in that museum.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think just that alone is a testimony to your investment and what it is you're doing. This question, I don't know if I've ever asked this of John Zaffis, talking to Bishop Long, talking to anybody in this field before, but when you were talking about the shadow doll as an example, or you even talk about Annabelle, or any of these where you don't want physical contact with. Why? Because that contact could create some sort of a oppression, possession, certainly an attack. My question to you is, what is the catalyst to begin with? Now, we could talk about Ouija boards, and people could go out, buy a Hasbro Ouija board, and it's just wood and a planchette plastic piece.
Yeah.
But it is their connection that creates the darkness, that portal.
Yeah. Yeah.
What's
happened, George, is incantations and rituals and incantations around the objects.
On these items. Okay.
Yes.
So that's I mean, a Ouija board then is an incantation of a sort as well then.
In a way, because you're actually, well, what a Ouija board is basically is a conduit to the other side. In other words, it's like a telephone.
Right.
It's like a way to contact. It's
Right.
like a telegraph.
Dowsing rods, all that stuff.
A way to get through to something. In other words, they can manipulate the board, just like they can move maybe a pencil. A human spirit, spirit can probably move a pencil.
Right.
Or maybe turn the doorknob, or maybe flick on a light. That's a human spirit. And maybe move a planchette on a Ouija board. But a demonic entity can definitely move a planchette, can move a refrigerator, can pick me up and throw me down the stairs. They got a lot more power, a demonic entity.
Right.
How much power? Well, they don't have enough power to destroy the earth, because God he goes limits. God has limits to what he allows the demonic to do. But the demonic is like a thorn in your side, and if you don't know how to deal with it, it's never going to go away. But the Ouija board, though, is like picking up a telephone and dialing a specific number. When you say, is there a spirit here? There's hundreds of spirits in the air, human and non-human. And what you're doing is you're playing Russian roulette when you do that. It is a way for them to contact you, but who's contacting you? Like I said, devils and demons are very devious. They're liars. So you can go, gee, I really want to talk to my mother. She passed away 3 years ago. Maz, are you here, Ma? Yes. Oh, okay. And the other guy says, okay, well, prove it's your mother. Ask a question only you know. So you ask the question, what did I get for my 15th birthday, Ma? And then the answer is correct. People say that the demonic can't read your mind, but I don't believe that. I believe they can. I believe they have the wisdom of the ages and can tell what you're thinking. And that's where the correct answers come from.
Right.
You'll have two sides of the story. They'll say they can't read your mind, and they can't. Ed used to say, yes, they can read your mind, and I believe it. They got that kind of power. They got that kind of intelligence.
Getting back to the origins, though, of these possessed items, these cursed items. they still, all the origins seem to be from human intent, that incantation to begin with. So it's not like in some of the movies like Fallen, where they're just floating through space as evil and they just land in an object and, okay, I'm going to take this over and wait. Somebody had first, a human being, a living person of free will, created this scenario to begin with.
Yes, I believe that. I believe 100%. They're through witchcraft or through Satanism or through other kind of black arts. They use incantations, and then, you know, intent like that is real. It's the intent.
Sure.
You know, it's real. Like, you know, why would you pray to God if you thought God couldn't hear you? I mean, it's the intent. You know that God, you don't know 100% that God hears your prayers, but you have to have what? You have to have faith.
Faith, belief.
Faith. Our whole society and most paranormal is faith-based, where you have to believe in spirits to do an investigation. If you don't believe in spirits, George, you shouldn't be in the business. It's like a cop who doesn't believe in crime.
Yeah.
If you don't believe in crime, why are you a cop? If you can't protect people, or you don't believe in protecting people, why are you a cop? So it's like, that's what it is. You have to have that core value, because the stuff that happens to people, George, is real. It's not made up. I've had stuff happen to me that I know is not my imagination, and I'm sure you have too.
Amen.
You have too, right? Absolutely. I've gotten held down in my bed. I've gotten hands pushing me into the pillow, trying to suffocate me. I got all kinds of. And how did I break that? When these two hands were pushing me into the pillow at night when I was face down. How did I get out of it?
Saying the Lord's Prayer.
I didn't call the police.
Yeah.
I didn't say that's nothing. Maybe I'll just die. No, I called on God. Yeah. I said, in the name of Jesus Christ, I command you to leave and go back to where you came from. I kept saying it over and over in my mind because I couldn't say it aloud. I couldn't yell out. It's like people have psychic paralyzation when they can't yell out at night. You have to pray to God for the release.
Can DeCosta come rescue the show? Because I could probably do another 40 minutes. Just getting to this topic again. It's fascinating.
I'm going to tell you something before we move on to the next thing. Tony, I've been doing this a long time, right? And I've seen things and I've heard things and experienced things, but that Father A story is one of the most bizarre things that I think I've ever heard.
Well, you know what?
That is the truth.
It's one of the most bizarre things that ever happened to me. And the thing that got me was, here's the weird part, okay? Here's the weird part. I didn't quite give you the whole. Lorraine said, "Well, I didn't notice he was fat." Lorraine said to me at the beginning, I didn't notice. But Ed and I both thought.
That's interesting.
If it was just me, I'd be like, maybe I'm a little cuckoo. Maybe I didn't have enough to eat today or something. You know what I mean? Maybe I had too many meatballs or something. You know what I mean? But when Ed said to me, yeah, he gained like 100 pounds, didn't he? Then Ed saw it too. And then when I saw him at the diner, and I said, Ed, look. I was like, I couldn't believe it. Ed didn't even blink. He turned to me and says, you know what that is? That's transfiguration. I said, what do you mean, Ed? He goes, he's presenting himself as something he's not. And God is letting us know.
That is one of the most bizarre things that I've heard. That's one for the books, right?
I'm a pretty sensible guy, you know. You guys are too. You're pretty sensible. You would know if you were imagining stuff, right? Yeah. I wasn't imagining, and Ed wasn't imagining. That was real. God was showing us the real. There's something wrong with that priest.
That's crazy. That's crazy. I'm going to get to a couple of more questions here, and Tony, thank you so much on behalf of the people in chat for answering these, because we got a few of them here.
Go ahead.
All right, Shalog. Oh, hang on.
My apologies, Ken.
Right. Shalog 11. Hello, Ken and George. Awesome show tonight. Thank you so much. All our appreciation goes to Tony. What a wonderful guest. I'd like to ask Tony if he could let us know what scared Lorraine that she did not want to mention while she was alive. Thank you. If it's possible to answer that, Tony.
Well, I can give you a kind of an answer to it. But I can't give you a complete answer because they never told me the whole story. Here's what they said to me. Because I asked the same question of Ed and Lorraine when they were well, back in the 80s. I said, Ed and Lorraine, I said, what's the scariest case you guys have ever been on? And you know what Ed said to me? He said, it wasn't really a case we were on that something happened. I said, well, what then? He said, and I'm not probably saying the name of the town or the region correctly. He said it was Anti-Canush, Canada. They were at, Okay, I guess they did a lecture at some university close by. There's Bradley Cooper again.
Hey, Brad.
And
Star
so,
is born.
yeah, there you go. So I said, what do you mean? What happened then? He goes, Lorraine and I were in a car, and we were attacked by a demonic entity for over 5 hours straight. I go, what? He said, yeah. He goes, I can't talk about it. I go, what do you mean you can't talk about it? Tell me about it. He said, Tony, I can't talk about it because I'm afraid the thing will follow me. He goes, that's how powerful the thing was. I said, come on, Ed. He goes, I'm telling you. He goes, we were battered like you wouldn't believe inside that car for 5 hours straight. And I know it's a true story but nobody knows the details, because I mentioned it to one of the producers, the Warner Brothers, about something that happened to Lorraine. I said, she got tormented by like 5 hours by an entity in a car one time with Ed. And he goes, oh yeah, she told me all about it. She told me the same story. So she wasn't making me like saying something dramatic to us, to me and Judy. She told us, and Ed told us, that they were so frightened that they had to fight off this demon, whatever the hell it was. He wouldn't go into detail, for like 5 hours inside of a car. That's the thing that they said was just, that they didn't talk about. They never talked about it. Oh, and there's one other, not a case, but another thing where Ed would never tell me about the guy. There's a satanic idol in the woods in Sandy Hook, Connecticut. Well, 1991, I got the idol in the museum that Ed put there, and we're going to bring that to the Paracon. But it was about 1991 that this deer hunter, this bone arrow hunter, he was hunting deer in the woods of Sandy Hook, Connecticut. He's about 22 years old. He's walking down the woods, and he sees this idol in the woods on like a grotto of rocks, about 5.5, 6 feet high, ugly statue. You saw the statue. And this is in the summertime. The kid's lost. He stumbles upon this grotto. He doesn't know what to do. He said, I don't know. I felt really weird. All I could think of was, I got to get out of here. I can't look at this thing. He starts to walk down this pathway. As he's walking down the pathway, lost, he said, he's all alone, nobody around, he's in the woods. All of a sudden, there's a guy standing next to him, walking step for step. There's the idol. Walking step for step with this young man. He said the guy was about 70 years old, dressed all in black from head to toe, with a snow white beard and snow white hair pulled back, walking step for step with this young deer hunter. He said, I was so afraid of this guy, I didn't know what to do. The guy just appeared out of nowhere. He was, as I'm walking, all I could do was muster up to say to the guy, how do I get out of here? How do I find my way out of here? And all the guy did is point to the right. There's me talking about it. Pointed to the right, and then he walked away. So the kid gets to his car, he rushes home, tells his friends he's all upset about what happened. His friend says, why don't you call the Warrens? They live right in Monroe, the next town over. Why don't you call him up? He's in the book. So they call up Ed. Ed says to the young man, you think you could lead me to that statue that you're talking about? He says, I think I can find it, Ed. Meet me on the roadway. So Ed and Lorraine went there, met this young man, and he brings Ed into the woods, and they find the idol. And as they find the idol, he tells Ed about this guy. This guy dressed all in black. And Ed says, I know exactly who that guy is, and I know exactly what that statue is. That's a satanic worship idol. And this guy worships it with his group in this woods. It doesn't belong here. I'm taking it with me. So Ed takes it, puts it in his car. They cart it home, put it in the museum. Nothing happens for about a day. About the third day, Lorraine is watering some flowers in the backyard, and Ed is fixing the wipers on his car. He looks back, and he sees Lorraine watering the flowers. And then, about 3 minutes later, Ed turns around again and glances back towards Lorraine, and Lorraine's not there any longer. She's like 25 feet down the driveway, laying down in a fetal position, semi-conscious. Ed runs over to her. Lorraine, what's the matter? She doesn't answer. He calls the ambulance. The ambulance brings Lorraine to St. Vincent's Hospital in Bridgeport. For 3 days, Lorraine was in and out of conscious. She was like semi-conscious. She could look at you, but she couldn't talk. So they're doing all kinds of tests on Lorraine. And I visited Lorraine on the next day. The next day that she was there, she was incoherent. Ed asked the doctors, what's wrong with my wife? doctor said, Ed, we did all kinds of tests. We can't find out anything wrong. The brain scan came out perfect. There's nothing wrong. But she's still semi-conscious. So, I'm trying to read that. Brave to put that ugly thing in the car. Yeah, well, Ed was a brave guy, believe me. So, very brave. So, third day, she snaps out of it. Boom. She's fine. She's perfectly fine, and the doctors released her from the hospital. So that afternoon, I went to Ed. I went to the museum where we had the idol. I said, hey, Ed, what did the doctor say about Lorraine? What was wrong with her? He said, Tony, they never told me. The doctors never knew what was wrong with her, but I know what it was. I said, what was it? He said, that son of a bee, such and such, did that as a warning to me. I go, who? He goes, the guy in the woods.
The guy.
The satanic leader of that high priest of satanic cult. He goes, the guy's very powerful. He goes, he knows a lot about ceremonial magic. He said, but I know a lot about reverse ceremonial magic. The guy didn't mess with me, but he did that as a warning to Lorraine. He said, I hate that son of a blah, blah, blah. I said, well, then about a week later, I said, Ed, that guy, what was his name again? I said, I'm not telling you his name. I go, come on, what was the guy's name? He said, anytime I mention the guy's name, something bad happens. He goes, that's how powerful the son of a gun is. He goes, I'm not going to tell you his name again, but I remembered his name. I thought about it. I remember the guy, the German name. And this is going to blow your mind, too. The Sandy Hook killings back in 2012, 14, whatever it was.
Yeah.
Remember, that was a bad, right? The kid who did it lived on Yogananda Drive. Yogananda Drive. Yogananda was a guru from India. I don't know why they named it Yogananda Drive, but he was like a mystic from India, a very religious man, right? But so Yogananda Drive. And then there's a kid named Manfredonia, who was about, 20, in his 20s, recently. I'm talking about within a couple years ago. He shot his best friend and kidnapped a girlfriend in Newtown. He lives on Yogananda Drive. Same as Adam Lanza did. Now, this is what's going to blow your mind. The guy, the satanic high priest, where did he live?
Oh, come on.
Yogananda Drive.
Oh, come on.
I'm not kidding. Yogananda Drive. He's dead now.
Yeah.
He's been dead for years. But what the heck? What kind of a triangle is Yogananda Drive? Adam Lanza. Manfredonia kills his best friend. He's 21 years and kidnaps the girlfriend. Just like a couple years ago. That happened. And now I find out later from somebody that this guy, this German guy, this lived on Yogananda Drive. Come on. That's how powerful. Ed told me. Ed said to me, this guy is very powerful. He's probably powerful in death, for Christ's sake. So, there's things we don't know about. But there's powers out there that are very, very real.
Well, I mean, there's coincidence and there's like a cosmic force,
People can say it's a coincidence, but is it? That's a real big coincidence.
That's a little bit much.
But I can't prove anything. I can't I can't bring it to anybody. You can't bring it to authorities and say, look into this. What's there to look into? The guy's dead. But he's that kind of weird. He has that kind of power. Because when Ed said to me, I don't want to mention the son of a bee's name, he says, because something will happen to me. I'm a little low on battery, but that's okay. How much longer are we going to go? Because I'm a little low on battery.
Oh, maybe no more 5-10 minutes or so, Tony.
I should be okay with the battery then.
Okay, cool. Wanted to get to another question because something I wanted to touch on with you, and I think this is probably a common question that people want to know the answer to. Mary asked Tony, if you were to destroy one of those objects, a doll or whatever, would it destroy the evil or would it just release it?
It would release the evil. It would destroy the vessel, but release what's in it. So, in other words, it's like a genie in a bottle. It's like you're letting it out of the bottle. So if you destroy the vessel, you're just letting it go wherever it wants to go. This way, we think we have it captive. We don't want to mess with it. We don't want to guess that maybe it's not there anymore. So let's just burn it. So we just leave it encased in that case and have rituals set over it, prayers.
Yeah. Before you run out of gas here, I also wanted to touch on this. I talked to you about it before, and you had actually mentioned traveling with Annabelle.
Yeah, yeah,
And again, the option if you've kind of moved on from this, but I know that there was some controversy involved with Annabelle, yourself, Zach Bagans, and the Ghost Adventures episode where you brought her to his museum.
yeah, yeah.
Has that incident, and if you want to, for the benefit of our audience, go into it a little bit. But my question is, has that particular incident caused you to maybe reevaluate exposing her to situations where people might exploit her,
Yeah,
and maybe by extension yourself, Ed and Lorraine,
right.
for personal agendas?
Yeah, right, right. You're right. I wouldn't take her on a TV show again, that's for sure. I wouldn't take her out of the case again, that's for sure.
Hmm.
See, I made the mistake of taking her out of the case, putting her in a road case. I had it blessed and everything, and it was the right way and everything. But then you're listening to somebody who says they're not going to touch it, they're not going to do anything, and so it wasn't right because that was the provision with the producers that nobody can touch the doll. The doll can never be out of my sight, and that's that. Oh no, we'll be very respectful. Well, everybody was respectful except Zach. I mean, everybody on the show was nice except Zach. So I mean, Zach can say what he wants about me. I don't care. I really don't. But
Yeah.
Zach wasn't very nice. He was okay, but between scenes, he wouldn't even talk to me. So I mean, he might be nice on camera, but he wasn't nice to me off camera. Matter of fact, he didn't even greet me when I walked out in the foyer before they filmed. All he said to me was, "There's your mark." I came 3,000 miles for the doll. He goes, "There's your mark." In other words, hey, how are you? Hey, thanks for coming. Nothing.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Zach is Zach. He can say what he wants about me. He said I did it for money. Well, he paid me what I thought was fair to take that risk. He makes a lot more money than I ever made. He's a multimillionaire. I'm not. So that's all I got to say about him.
Right, and that's enough said right there. So,
Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, it comes down to you will not. I mean, you will travel, but
Not with a doll like that. No.
you're right.
I'll
But
bring
I'm
the
sure.
doll locally. I'll bring it locally in the travel display case that we
Right.
can transport safely in this big wood case that's well built. I'm not going to take it out of any case. I'm not going to say, "Here, look at the doll." I'm not going to handle it, put it in the chair. I'm not going to do any of that stuff.
Right.
It was a one and only time.
Why did and I gotta go on with this? Why do you move her from time to time? I know that you've talked about in certain conditions that you find it necessary to move her.
The only time we ever moved her physically, like grabbed her, like I said, with a comforter, is to put her in another case, another display case.
Yeah.
The one we had was like bending and it looked
Oh, okay.
So Dan built a very strong one, and we put it. And that's the last place it's going to be because it's a very strong case and it's locked.
Okay, I thought that was maybe something. How do I put this? Maybe there was a certain type of energy or a certain
No.
something like that where she just
No.
you need to relocate her.
I think Ed probably moved the doll like twice, 3 times maybe,
Right.
and I moved it like 2 or 3 times over all the years that we've had it. We've had it since 1971, so maybe 6 times it's been moved, but moved within the museum. And then that time with Zach, but other times in the case locally, like we're going to do in Waterbury, that's different than actually touching the doll.
Right. And finally, a poll we did here that I want to show you real quick.
Yeah.
Knowing what we know about the doll and its history, would you name a daughter Annabelle? And 46% of people said, sure, it's a nice name, no big deal. But 54% said, probably not. I couldn't get past the stigma.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think I would want to call it that either. I mean, it's a nice name and everything, but yeah, the stigma attached. Everybody thinks of the doll. And the weird part was Annabelle Wallace, the actress. Her name was Annabelle Wallace,
Mhm.
and she starred in the first Annabelle movie as the mother who got the doll as a gift. It's weird.
Yes.
And
Weird.
weird coincidences, weird things happen. Like on my YouTube channel, I got all these people asking me, did Annabelle escape? We heard she escaped. And real quick before I run out of battery,
Mhm.
she was doing a movie with Tom Cruise, Annabelle Wallace.
Right.
And they asked her about how it was working with Tom. She goes, "Oh, he runs every day, jogs." She goes, "I had the opportunity to run with Tom." So somehow the Chinese media, when they translated it, it translated as Annabelle escapes, not Annabelle runs. Annabelle Wallace runs with Tom. Annabelle escapes. Somebody got it. Oh, Annabelle escaped.
That's where that came from.
Yep,
Rolled
I got a
into
million.
That was a thing, like about a year ago, right?
Yeah, not even a year ago. Yeah, and it went crazy. People thinking Annabelle escaped from the
Annabelle
case,
got away. Yeah,
but she didn't. She never did. She never did.
that's some.
a great
Crazy,
story
huh?
too.
Crazy. I love all you people listening. Just remember one thing: anything you do in life, anything you do to help people, anything you do with people or for people, always do it from love. If you do it from love, that's Corinthians. If you ever do everything from love, and you can't go wrong. You can't go wrong. Spread love, man. Don't spread hate. Spread love. No matter what, we're all people. We all want to live. We all want to eat. We all want to have somebody love us, and we want to love somebody. We want kindness and love. That's all we want.
There it is.
Yeah, and you are the shining example of that by taking that time, your very busy time, and coming and visit with us tonight. We cannot thank you enough, Tony, and we wish you the best for the October event. I would love to get up there, and you never know what the future holds. So there's a possibility.
If you get up there with Ken, I'll tell you.
Do I have to?
I'll buy you both a nice steak or prime rib.
Oh, geez.
And anything you want. Whatever you want.
The bar was just raised. From there.
Yeah.
Tony Spera, God bless. Thank you so much. My best to your family, and we're going to have you back. We'll talk about other things down the way.
Sure.
Some people want to.
I got a lot of stories. I got a lot of stuff I can tell you.
Oh, absolutely. At your leisure, anytime you want to come back, we'd love to have you.
Yeah, it's my honor. Thank you very much.
Tony, best to you and yours, and stay healthy, stay safe. Thank you so much for this tonight.
Absolutely. Same to you guys. I appreciate it.
Take care.
Gotcha.
Bye-bye now.
All right. Bye.
All right, guys. By the way, I wanted to bring something up, Ken. One of the questions that were in the chat was, Tony, what do you think about Robert the Doll? Ken, who are we in the process of having dialogue with right now?
The keeper of Robert the Doll.
Gonna be
coincidence? Or do we have a theme coming up here? We are actually going to be speaking to, is he the curator of the museum, George?
Yes, and he actually does the tours and everything. So what we're going to have to do, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, we have to pre-record with our guest and with Robert, because they do tours at night. Makes it spookier. It's in Key West. And so he's not available to do it live with us. So we'll probably wind up just doing the interview, but you guys can also join us in chat while we are doing the show, airing the show itself. Until then, thank you guys all for being great patrons and watching our channel. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, the thumbs up, smash that, and then click on the reminder bell for upcoming content.